SJ, welcome to Mvskoke Radio, your weekly source for tribal and community news, interesting guests and discussions, plus a local events calendar.
Work toward achieving that goal, and don't let anybody ever tell you that you can't do something that you set your mind to. She said I could do anything I wanted to do, be anyone I wanted to be, and go anywhere I wanted to go. There was no limitations, that I just had to make my mind up. So we went down to the thrift stores on First and Archer, and for $1.50 bought my first leotards, tights, and ballet shoes, and I started dancing. I called the person up and said, I want to take class with you, but I have no money. And he said, well, can you answer the phone, and can you write receipts? And I started dancing at 13. My first class was at 8, but I was also a gymnast, so we took class as a gymnastics team. I switched from gymnastics to ballet at 13 and started training. He taught me for a year and said, I've taught you everything I can teach you. I'm going to send you to another teacher. So he sent me to a lady named Margot Crowdis in Tulsa, and she in turn sent me to the Tulsa Civic Ballet to audition for the company. So that's when I started training with Moslyn Larkin and Roman Jasinski.
Gosh. Was it unusual for this little Indian girl, or any little Indian girl, to be involved in this dance?
Absolutely. I was the lone person out. Everybody else were basically rich white girls.
It's okay. I mean,
because you had to be able to afford the classes, and I was on scholarship. I seemed to be able to make my way through my entire career on scholarship. When I was at OU, I was on a full scholarship, BIA scholarship, and I obtained my degree in teaching ballet from OU. And then I started dancing professionally with Ballet Oklahoma in Oklahoma City, and then I went to LA, and this was after I had auditioned for Dallas Ballet, Houston Ballet, LA Ballet, Tulsa Ballet, and Pittsburgh Ballet, and found out that I was 2 inches too short to become a major professional ballet dancer. So I went to LA and did movies and musicals and TV shows and commercials, and I danced with the Pasadena Ballet Company and a jazz company.
2 inches too short. Oh, jeez. Did your colleagues make a big thing of you being an Indian? Did that ever figure into any of your career there?
When I was at OU, Miguel Tarakoff, who was the director of the ballet company, routinely cast me as Spanish, Russian, all of the ethnic groups. Mm-hmm. So I got to dance solo dances in all the ethnic groups.
Oh, yeah, that's a good plan, Natasha. Of course, the other ballerinas that you mentioned there have become kind of an icon in the state. They've received notice from artists, paintings. I understand there's some statuary of those dancers.
Yes, there are statues in Tulsa that are life size. Mm-hmm. They're beautiful. I've been down there many times to kind of reminisce.
Really?
Hmm.
What was it? I guess the basic fan question is, what was it like being famous, so to speak, to working with some of these people, being on the stages, working with some of the most famous music in man's history, so to speak?
I don't believe at the time it registered because we were so busy working so hard to put together the ballets that we did, trying to remember where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be, the ballets that you were performing. So in the process, while I was in that realm, it didn't dawn on me that these women that I was training with daily, that I danced with regularly, that I knew very, very well, were famous.
When did that dawn on you?
Probably not until just recently, when they started passing away, that I realized how famous they were. When I danced with Madame Chateau, I was sitting in the doorway watching her professional ballet class at OU, in awe of all of these dancers, not just her, but all of these dancers. And she turned around and looked at me and pointed her cane at me and said, "Little Indian girl, come here."
Oh,
And
my.
I was frozen. And she made me come up to the front, and she said, "I want you to stand here in the front with me. You and I are alike. We are different from all of these other females in this room. I will teach you how to look like them, because we traditionally are bent over with flat feet on the ground. And these women have longer legs, more extension, better feet, better arches, everything than we do." And she said, "You come take class with me, and I will teach you everything you need to know."
Oh my gosh. Another insider question here. What was it like then, being in one of these productions? I mean, you even watch a football game and you know these players know the play, which way to go, where to stop and turn, or who to hit and push. Did you have this kind of mechanical sorts of things running through your mind during a production?
There's many facets that go on with performing a complete ballet. Number one, it's exhausting. It's terrifying that you're going to be in the wrong place at the wrong time or fall down. But it's also the most amazing, magical place you can be. You're creating art, and it's living art. It is constantly moving, and nothing is ever perfect, but you try and make it as perfect as you can, at the same time telling a story and creating characters, creating a beautiful scene, while you're trying to stay on point, have your turnout correct, your shoulders down, your head up, your back straight. You have to kind of step beyond that and let all the technique continue, but at the same time forget about it so that you can create the art that you're creating.
I just have to ask, I mean, were there situations where you said, "Whoops, I went the wrong way," or
Oh,
I
absolutely.
slipped, excuse me for falling down?
There was a famous ballet dancer that came to when I was dancing with Tulsa Civic Ballet, and he was the guest artist in this ballet that we had performed many, many, many times. I'm sure he had performed at hundreds. And he was standing next to me pretending to talk, because we were crowd people while other dancers were dancing, pretending to talk. And he leaned over and said, "Do you know when I come in?" And I said, "Yes, I do." And he said, "Okay, when it's my time to come in, will you just put your hand on my shoulder and say, 'Go now'?"
Oh, you managed to pull that one off,
Uh-huh.
and nobody knew?
Nobody knew.
Oh, gosh. What did, Other Indian people think about you? Like, why are you doing this white man thing? Or were they supportive? Are they proud of you? What did you experience?
Well, one of the things that happened to me when I was getting my funding through the BIA, one of the people who talked to us about what we were going to do with our lives sat me down and said, "What do you want your major to be at OU?" And I said, "Ballet. I'm going to go get a Bachelor of Fine Arts in teaching ballet." And he said, "Little Indian girls don't dance. You need to become a nurse or a secretary or a teacher." And I said, "I'm going to be a ballet dancer, and not you or anybody else is going to tell me anything different."
Gosh, you don't need to follow those little predetermined paths.
No.
You can go your own way. And as you progressed, did you kind of know that you were moving through different levels and becoming more, well, I don't want to use the overworked word famous here, but more recognized for what you could do?
I kind of flown under the radar my entire life, so I never considered myself famous. I was just a working dancer, and I did everything that I could do. I was constantly working and training on becoming better. So I never considered myself excellent. I was just always trying to achieve the next level.
Oh, gosh. As you went through this experience, were there times when you know you just nailed it? I mean, when a performance was exactly what you wanted and came off well?
It's kind of funny because, yes, there are those moments, and then you'll usually glide gracefully off stage and trip over something in backstage. Well, dancers are some of the most humble people that you will ever meet because there is no perfection in what we do. There was always room for improvement. As
we see a few more like movies and things that are looking at the profession, like Black Swan and a couple of others. Do you feel like that brings you back? Do you think, oh, I remember that, or yeah, I was there, something like that?
It's kind of funny because one of the movies that I love features Baryshnikov, Mikhail Baryshnikov, and I actually danced with him in a studio in L.A., Stanley Holden Dance Center, and it was a surreal moment when he was in class with the rest of us, and then seeing him on screen in a movie doing the same thing. The moments that I've had throughout my dancing career were amazing and every day. So it was the ability to be able to be in that situation, to be able to experience all the things that I experienced, was fantastic. It was an amazing ability for me to actually be there and experience those things, and I knew that it was special.
I think we've got our second musical piece here now. Same question as before. Does this bring back memories or a smile to your face?
Absolutely. I know this dance. I've performed it many times.
The dance is?
It's the Ballet of the Little Cygnets, if I'm hearing the piece correctly. And it's very fast, and the girls have their hands holding each other's hands, so you can't mess up because everybody's feet are going exactly the same way.
I think we've all probably seen that at one point, about four of them moving
and it's all the short dancers, just so you know, because they're the ones that can move fast. I was always the fast dancer. I would run out on stage, do a really, really fast solo, and run off.
Gosh. Yeah, I think we've got some interference from trucking next door. The discipline involved in this is got to be an incredible physical experience. I mean, you think of athletes out, in football, they're knocking heads all day out in the hot sun, things like that, and then gymnasts coming in and working out, or boxers or wrestlers or something like that. Was that physical experience and training the same? Was it that hard? Did you get that sweaty, so to speak?
Absolutely. I think they've done studies between ballet dancers, advanced ballet dancers, and football players, and pound for pound, ballet dancers are much stronger than football players.
It is not a discussion that comes up very often. People think, the girls on stage and kind of bouncing around and doing these light, flighty little things, but my God, that looks like it's hard work.
It's one of the hardest things that you can possibly do.
Gosh. Now, being in a few sports, I noticed that, there's got to be some injuries from time to time. Did you go through some of that? Did you get hurt?
I did. Nothing was catastrophic. I've hurt my ankles, my feet, my arches, my knees, my back, my neck, my hips. So I've kind of run the gambit of all of the things that you can hurt and still continue to dance.
Did it ever happen during a performance?
Not from me, but one ballet I was in, the prima ballerina broke her toe right before the ballet began, and she danced the entire ballet on point with a broken toe.
Oh, my gosh.
And then went to the emergency room as soon as the curtain was down.
Oh, gosh, my gosh. Was that a career-ending move, or?
No.
Gosh.
She let it heal and went back.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us danced in pain. I went to Florida to a ballet summer camp, and the lady there, Mrs. P., Ruth Petrinovich, she said, if it hurts, smile. If it hurts really bad, smile bigger. I don't want to see a grimace until I see blood coming through the point shoes.
Let's hope that never happened to you.
I actually showed her the blood in my point shoe at the end of class.
Oh, gosh. Maybe you could clear up a bit of the mystery about the point shoe. People look at it, if they're not familiar with it, they just think it's just this soft slipper that you wear, but it's not.
No, the toe where all of your toes go into is a hard box. And you'll see shows where dancers are like breaking them in the back of a door,
Mm-hmm.
pounding them with a hammer, sewing on yarn on the toe. But you have to make that fit your foot. And when you're dancing professionally, or like as I did in college, you went through a case of point shoes in a semester. We would get an entire case of point shoes, and most of those point shoes lasted about 2 weeks.
Just got worn out.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. The decision to take on a career like this has got to be kind of daunting. It's like there's no guarantee of anything. If something gets hurt, then you're done. If you don't get recognized, or somebody says maybe you're 2 inches too short, there's a lot of potential for discouragement there. So how did you deal with that?
I think I just always kept a very positive attitude. I knew that that's what I wanted to do, and there was nothing that was going to make me stop until I was ready to retire. And retirement age is about 35.
Is that just because the body's worn out, or?
Your body just starts to revolt.
Oh, gosh. Now, the music for many ballets is well known to a lot of people who don't know a darn thing about ballet. Something like this, again, does it
I know this variation.
Did you dance the variation?
I've danced this variation. I love this variation. And I can't listen to this without hearing the steps.
Mm-hmm.
I always hear the steps. I'm also the worst critic. People don't like to go to ballets with me.
Oh my!
Because unless they're excellent dancers, I will sit there and say, point your toe, turn your leg out from your hip, put your shoulders down. What are you doing? Oh my gosh, why are your arms that way? Shoulders down, elbows up, soften your fingers. The entire ballet.
Sounds like myself when I'm trying to edit a piece or something like that. You just get so critical you can't stand it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, don't do that or don't write. How did you write this? My God, you missed the point. You just buried your lead in the story, and you just can't pull away from it then.
There for a while at OU, I was an assistant to Miguel Tarakoff, and I sat, they call them ballet mistresses. You sit and you critique and help the dancers make their performances better.
And do they react well to it, or do they get a little upset?
Dancers are very humble. They will always take a suggestion.
So divas are not welcome then?
Not really. About the only one who was allowed to be a diva was Madame Chateau, and she never was.
Mm-hmm. Can you take a second here to name those 4 or 5 ballerinas for us?
Okay, Jocelyn Larkin, and she was married to Roman Jasinski, and their school was in Tulsa.
Osage?
No, I don't know, you'll have to check your...
Okay.
I'm not sure. She's not Osage. The only two that were Osage were the Tall Chiefs.
Right,
Maria and Marjorie Tall Chief. And the other one that I trained with was Yvonne Chateau, which in the Ballet Russe de Monte Carlo, she was the youngest ballet dancer at 14 to come into the company. And I believe it was Danilova who nicknamed her Ivanichix, which the entire company nicknamed her Chixie.
Oh, gosh. The mark they've left on the arts culture here in Oklahoma is amazing. We've seen the paintings, the sculpture. One of Oklahoma's cultural treasures, the 4 of them. How important is that, do you think, for the people of Oklahoma to understand and appreciate?
Well, if you think about it, all of them came back and taught in some place. Maria Tall Chief was in Chicago. Marjorie Tall Chief was in Dallas. Madame Chateau was in Oklahoma City and Norman. And Jocelyn Larkin was in Tulsa. And out of all of their students, most of the ballet teachers that are around Oklahoma, especially now, are from them. They were trained by them. Mm-hmm. So that's a great legacy for the two that were in Oklahoma, is that their training is still going on through their students.
And the impression it leaves on non-native Oklahomans is, how do you feel? How important is that for them to say, hey, these were Indian?
I hear it everywhere I go. People are enthralled that these women came from Oklahoma, that they were native, and they made their world ballet. It's almost impossible to imagine that was achieved, and that those ladies did that.
And of course, the recognitions at the Historical Center, and the paintings that are now displayed with
everywhere.
The legacy they've left is so important, but I don't know that a lot of our native people are aware of it. Would you agree with that, or is there something that we should be doing, you think?
I think there's truth in that statement. I think that they are probably more well known outside of the Native communities, but they are known. I think that teaching more about those women and what their legacy is, would be a beautiful thing to do.
Hmm. Would you like to see some program or some sort of effort to recruit Native girls into forming a troupe or something like that? I know that's an incredibly challenging task, but
Actually, I think there is a company now in Osage country, the Tall Chiefs. I'm not really familiar with it, but I do know that they have a company and that they put on ballets.
well, that would be a wonderful history to maintain.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you keep any connections with the with dance? Do you teach, coach, encourage, or is life a little more
Well,
different?
when I came back to Oklahoma when I was 35, I continued to choreograph, teach, and dance. I danced in a liturgical ballet company. I choreographed for Broken Arrow Community Theater, Theater Tulsa, Tulsa Indian Actors Workshop. I have a thing for musicals, so I did a lot of musical theater. And then I retired completely at 48 and became a shaman healer. It was something that my ancestors had always told me that was my path when I finished with my love of dancing. But to keep myself in dancing, I dance with the Creek Fiddle Dancers here with Mvskoke Creek Nation, and I also shake shells at stomp dances.
I was going to ask you about that. I mean, there's got to be some traditional aspect to what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Which grounds, by the way?
Tallahassee.
Okay, so you keep that connection.
And I also have a Cherokee grounds that I go to.
Ah, okay. Well, that's forgivable. I guess finally, if you were to encourage a girl, someone who might be showing some interest in ballet, what would you say to them?
Ask for recommendations on a good teacher, and figure out what you want to do with it. If you're serious about it, it is a 24/7 endeavor. What you eat, how you live, sleep, being healthy, training as much as you can. I mean, I have a degree in teaching ballet, but I also learned jazz, modern, tap, acrobatics, flamenco. I learned everything that I could possibly learn. I also took voice lessons. I took voice and diction lessons. I took acting lessons. And I never stopped any of those the entire time I was dancing. So if you had a character piece in a ballet, you knew what you were doing because you had trained in it. So if you really want to be a ballet dancer, it's a lot of hard work, and it's not for the faint-hearted, but to find a good school and just start training.
Right, it's reminiscent of an Olympic athlete.
Mm-hmm.
You have to work that hard.
Yeah.
And you start when you might be a mouse in the nutcracker. Were you a mouse in the nutcracker?
No, actually, I started too late. By the time I started, one of my first dances that I got to be in, I was an understudy with Tulsa Civic, and the ballet was being rehearsed. The principal ballet dancer got injured, so a soloist went up to principal, a corps de ballet member went up to soloist, and the understudies in the back. Moslyn Larkin said, "Who knows this dance?" I raised my hand, and she chastised her entire ballet company for not knowing this part because I was the outsider. I was the little Indian girl from the wrong side of the tracks who had come in to be an understudy with her company, and she stood me in front of the entire company and said, "Do the step." And I did the step, and she said, "You have the part."
Oh, my gosh. All right, well, we have enjoyed this nice little chat and seeing you again outside of a nursery crib. And I want to thank you, Nancy Scott Fields, for coming in and sharing this. It's such a wonderful chance for us to kind of break out of our mold. So 2,000 Meadows, and we want to wish you well. And I'm sure we're going to cross trails again.
Well, thank you for having me.
Okay, well, let's knock out a couple of quick announcements real fast.
It's the oldest existing trophy to be awarded to any professional sports franchise. A new trophy is not made every year. It's one of a kind, and every team wants it. The Governor General of Canada purchased the decorative cup for around 50 cents in 1892. In 2019, the St. Louis Blues took home the Stanley Cup. Friday, October 11th, the coveted Stanley Cup is coming home to the Tulsa Oilers for one night. Join the Tulsa Oilers for a weekend of exciting hockey and your chance to see it up close and get your picture taken with the Stanley Cup.
Opening night, Friday, October 11th is Stanley Cup night. Game time is 7 when the Oilers take on the Kansas City Mavericks. Stick around after the game for the after party on the ice. Meet the players and get your picture with the Stanley Cup. Don't let the hockey excitement stop there. Come back on Saturday at 7 when Tulsa takes on the Allen Americans, and Sunday at 4 when Tulsa faces the Rapid City Rush. For ticket information, visit TulsaOilers.com. The Stanley Cup and a weekend of hockey. Does life get any better than that?
A wonderful opportunity for hockey fans. Okay, Indian Taco fundraiser coming up on October 12th. It's a benefit for John Tulsa, and you hope that you'll be helping that family. It's October 12th, 11 to 3 at the Dewar Indian Community Center, and cost is $8 for the meal there and additional items available. Free food distribution, Mvskoke Creek Nation and Okmulgee families at the Pavilion, the Dome, October the 12th from 11 to 4. That's a Saturday. Continuous distribution until it's all given away. Please bring your own bags and boxes too. Thank you. Any questions? 918-366-6735. Okay, that'll do it for me. We want to say Mado for listening to our program today, and we'll see you next week. Again next week for more local, tribal, and community news and updates. Mado.